Well, boys, we're still here. So June 8th didn't take us out.
There you go. Or
Best that
did
we
it?
know.
Yeah.
It's an alternate universe.
Yeah. It really happened, but the Mandela effect's got us where we think we're still here. Yeah.
I mean, is Chris Farley still the president? I mean, is that
No, he's in a van down by the river.
that's
Yep.
it.
With every electoral vote, of course.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Eating some
Is that where
government
all those hidden
cheese.
ballots went?
Oh, I like it.
Nice.
That was in our universe.
Oh, okay. Oh man. Yeah, so we're still here. Apparently, June 8th didn't pop off and be this big thing that everybody thought. With the geostorm. Now there was a lot of weird stuff going on for sure. But I don't know, man. There was people showing videos of where they were seeing like a second sun or something like that, and I don't know. I mean, the way AI is today, man, there's no telling what's real and what's not. But I mean, there was multiple people in Florida that was sharing videos of stuff like that. Lots of strange stuff happening in the sky, and then we had the weird coloration of the moon and all that. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't put a ton of stock into that whole idea, but I was still kind of quietly making sure we had our ducks in a row if we had to go somewhere or do something, because I mean, you don't know. And
Yeah.
supposedly all that stuff's overdue,
Where did that phrase come from? Ducks in a row. Because you know how hard it is to wrangle ducks to get them.
It is not difficult at all.
It's not? Well, I'm not a duck
No.
person. You tell me all about it, brother.
Dude, let me tell you something. I'd go let my ducks out in the morning. I don't have them anymore. But I'd go let my ducks out of their pen in the morning. They'd spend all day hanging out in or around the pond. And at the end of the night, when it was time to go put them up, I'd bring out my little cup of mealworms and I'd just shake it. I'd say, "Hey, ducks." And they'd come right out of the pond in a line, headed straight for their pen where I'd put them up every night.
Well, there you go.
Yep. So
is that where, or do you know where that term came from?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, the best that I know is, when you see them crossing the street, you always see like mama duck and then all the little ducklings following them, or when they're swimming, the ducks are always like following in line. So I'm assuming it's just an observation of the regular person was like, "Hey, look, all the ducks are in a row," and then, "Hey, you got your ducks in a row," and then now it's a thing. Don't question the process, Joe. It is what it is.
You can't say that about geese, though.
There's a fella on one of the media platforms I love listening. I can't remember his name, but he always has like all the sayings you've ever heard. He goes back and researches where they all came from, where they originated from. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think I've heard one of those or something.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, like where the four-post bed comes from and why they have this and why they call it the threshold, because they're like, we got to hold in all the thresh. So the floor used to be straw, and so then they had this piece of wood that would keep the straw from going outside to keep it inside, so you weren't walking on mud and dirt. So then they were like, oh, it's the threshing floor, and you have the thresh hold, and it holds thresh. And I was like, that's amazing. Today we just have this little random strip of wood for the door. You know what I mean? What do you call it? A threshold? Because random reasons. We don't have any thresh anymore. We have wood or linoleum or concrete or whatever.
It's supposedly an insult to step on someone's threshold as you walk in their house.
Well, it's better than a chokehold.
And again, I wonder if that would come from the threshing floor, like Jonathan was saying, like it's an insult to walk on someone else's threshing floor. Or so maybe that's I don't know. I don't know why it would be an insult to walk through somebody's doorway and step on their threshold, but
yeah.
And then we have our traditions about carrying your bride across the threshold when y'all I don't know. That's all right, guys. I'm gonna need y'all to jump on that. I'm gonna need some of these facts. Like every episode, I'm gonna need some of those.
No, I got one for you right now. This is the one that always makes me laugh because I love you, ladies, but for the weddings, the reason why there's the pretty bouquet and the flowers that you hold as you walk down the aisle.
Oh, I know this one.
All of history, there's no such thing as deodorant or regular bathing or perfumes or any of that. So the flowers were to mask the smell all around.
Odoriferous.
Yeah. So hey, if I hold these flowers, you might think I'm smell better than I actually do. And now it's this awesome tradition where you have all these pretty flowers with the ribbon around it or the lace because it's pretty, but it wasn't. They didn't do it for pretty purposes back in the day. They did it because they smelt not the best.
Yeah.
Can you imagine not even bathing for your wedding, bro?
Hey, you gotta
Like,
do what you
come
gotta do.
on.
I love you so much that regardless of how you smell, you can still come to my house tonight.
Yeah, look, they got
The
married
creek
on
is right there, man.
They got married on a Thursday. It wasn't Saturday night bath time. I mean, what are you supposed to do, you know?
Well, and on top of that, you're all sharing the same bath. So she was, the lady was a daughter. Now she's a wife, so she gets number 2 bath. The water's still a little clean, but whenever she was a kid, whenever she was still the daughter, the husband, the wife. By the time you got to that bath water, you might not have got clean anyway.
Yeah, it's funny we talk about it, but it's sad at the same time because we live in a time where literally the majority of us can take a shower, a
3
bath
times a day.
anytime we want to.
Yeah.
But back in the day, when people and I was being funny when it says, "Oh, it's not Saturday."
Mhm.
So, but that's literally how it was back in the day where there was a certain day of the week. This is our bathing day. We all get washed on Saturday, Sunday, whatever it might be, and
Yeah.
so it's become more of a funny thing over time, but that was a real way of life for people,
That was a big deal. You had to go get buckets of water and fill up a tub. Then you had to heat the water, and it wasn't going to be hot for long, so it wasn't like it was a continuous stream of hot water from a shower. It was heat that amount of water. That's it.
Yeah.
And then here's your bar of soap that's made out of animal fat and ashes from the fire pit, and maybe
Which
sprinkle some
technically
smelly stuff on it.
gets you really clean, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad
Yeah.
you don't have any lotion afterward. With all that dry skin.
Dude.
That's why you couldn't shower every week. Your skin would fall off with all that.
I actually heard something this past week about there was this dermatologist that was talking about how horrible it is, and it got me thinking about my wife because I don't know if y'all's women are like mine, but I cannot touch the water that my wife just casually bathes in. Like it will boil my skin. Like it is so hot, and she loves it like that. Apparently, that's not very good for you, especially if you are if you have a water system like public water or whatever, city water, that kind of thing, or in like a hot tub that has chlorine in it. Any of those waters that have chlorine in it, especially mixing the chlorine water with the heat is even worse. Obviously your skin's the biggest organ, right? And it absorbs a lot. Well, taking in that amount of chlorine into your body all at one time is extremely toxic, and it like is horrible for like your liver and all kind of stuff. So yeah, it's bad.
Well, and that hot water opens up all your pores, so you're gonna get more of it into your skin. But when it's really hot, what do you get? That steamy hot shower. So then now you've aerosoled it, and now you're breathing it in. And yeah, I can see why that would make it less than optimal.
Right.
I'm not taking a cold shower.
Speaking of the bouquet of flowers, Jonathan, that's another reason why back in the day that women always carried fans, little hand fans, because they would have perfume on it. So whenever someone would approach them, they could take the fan and actually fan around their body, and you would get the smell of the perfume. Yeah.
You know what, Joe? I
It was.
remember. I don't know if it was my mom or I don't know who. Somebody somewhere they had a fan like that. It was made out of cedar wood, and I remember that the fan always smelled good. And I was like, "Oh man, this fan smells amazing." But I didn't. That makes a sense of a bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Words. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never. I didn't know that, man. That's really cool. I always just thought it was like, just I'm hot. I'm just keeping the bugs away from my face, or I'm hot, or whatever. I thought that's what that was.
It served as a dual purpose, and because if you watch a lot of the old movies, they never break the fan out until someone approaches them a lot of times, or especially if it's a male, they will then pull the fan out, and it's kind of like they're being like they're playing just whatever, flirting a little bit, but it's also because they're moving their head around because they're trying to get
Dodge.
that scent all around them so that it's not repulsive, I guess so.
That doesn't make sense though. They put it over their face,
Right.
kind of use it like as a almost like a shield a little bit. So then
Mhm.
you're not getting breath, you're not getting smell, and then like, oh, it's seductive. You can
Wow.
only see my eyes. No, I don't want you to smell me.
It's crazy, man. I
Yeah,
did not
yeah,
know that. That's
yeah,
so
man.
cool.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, men do the same thing. They have the little rose right here, like, hey, put some flowers near you because, everybody's,
That's I wonder if that's what that probably is where like what is it called? A boutonniere or something?
yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to try to say it. I figured I didn't know the right answer.
No. I
The
guess that's where
flower.
the flower. I get maybe that is where that come from.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And,
yeah,
the aftershave, whatever, like burn your face, but at least it smells better than what you would smell like otherwise.
yeah, and you
Wow.
think about this too over time, the way people dress. So women usually were wearing heavier garments. Their dresses were a lot heavier. They were just a lot more everything. So you're sweating.
Yeah.
I feel for the ladies. They were sweating a lot, and
Well, I mean, they
you
were
think about the men too, that back then there was a time where men wore suits every day.
Mm-hmm.
well, I will say there is extremely beneficial properties to linen and wool.
And
Yeah,
cotton. Yeah.
And yeah,
yeah,
and cotton as well,
Yeah.
non-GMO, all that,
Exactly.
whatever. Like back then cotton, not now cotton.
right.
Um, there's a lot of benefits as far as like certain like antimicrobial properties and things like that.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
um,
just little parts
well,
of history.
another history fun fact. I don't know if you guys know this, but um, like even as far back or as early as or as recent, I should say, as like World War I, soldiers used to carry around silver coins in their pockets,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's why a lot of times in the civil when people are excavating areas where there's like Civil War stuff, you'll find you know campfire lead is what it's called. You'll find a big bunch of lead where somebody was sitting down around a campfire making bullets and stuff like that. Um, but you'll also find coins a lot of times in those same areas, and they were pretty much required to keep a few silver coins in their pocket at all times. And the reason why is because they didn't know where their next water source was going to be coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And so to clean the water, they would fill up their canteens and things with water and they toss in the silver coins, close it up, and then wait a couple of hours. Then they could drink it. Now, it still might be dirty water, like have dirt and particles and stuff like that in it, but that silver would clean the water from any of all the bacteria and stuff that would be harmful to them and stuff. So I thought that was cool. So
Well, Colin, it didn't help or didn't hurt that back then all money was 90% silver anyway. So
yeah,
even if they just had a regular quarter, or a regular nickel, or
right.
a dime at least, all the money used to be 90% silver. So for you guys out there searching, if you find some old quarters and dimes, I think it's like 1964 and before,
Keep
then
it.
hold on to that like it's valuable because it's valuable. Like
It
their
is.
quarters like $5, the dime's worth like $2. That's real money. You could take it to a store or keep it, and it's actually has some decent value to it.
Yep. Yep.
And that's just for having a quarter. It cost you a quarter and you got $5. That's the best return on investment you can get.
Yep.
There you go.
But yeah, so Kyle, earlier you were talking about like at the beginning of the video, surviving the big bangs, all the craziness that's going on all over the world, the volcanoes and the solar storms and all that stuff. Well, like you were saying, you got to look into stuff. You don't always take it to heart. You don't always, bug out immediately. If we bugged out for everything we ever heard, we'd never stop bugging out. We would just live and bug out.
Right.
But then during the process, while everybody's at home, looking for the crescendo out the window, you know, there wasn't the big as what they thought. But what was interesting was there was so much activity actually going on all over the world. There was the did you guys see or hear about the northern lights that were like way down across like the whole United States? Obviously, that applies to the other side of the world too. But for us in the US, those northern lights came all the way down to like North Carolina, South Carolina, where you could see them with your phone. A little bit north, you could see them just with your eyes. And that's not I'm not gonna say it's not normal, but that's not a thing that happens all the time. So when you start to add in a lot of the stuff, it gets interesting. Did you guys go out and take any pictures or get to see it at all?
No, I didn't.
No.
You're talking about recently, right?
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
not
Now
too long ago.
the one we had. How long ago was that, Kyle?
Probably last year.
Yeah, about 6, 8 months ago or so.
Yeah.
It was during the fall of last year, right? We had where we could, if but you couldn't really see it because I think you took pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I got a buddy of mine that has a really expensive camera, and he got some amazing photos with that. But they were out there taking pictures with their cell phone as well, and I'm like, my cell phone's not picking any of this stuff up. And they had to go in there and show me how to change some
It comes
settings and
from
stuff.
Apple.
Mm. Yeah, no,
I'll see if I can find that.
I definitely remember that, and so it's interesting, because what are the Northern Lights, right? We've been told it's space dust. We've been told it's solar flare energy bouncing off of the,
Gas.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
all kind of stuff.
yeah.
But when the story's been told to you that it's only can be seen at this parallel, only in these parts of the world, and then it starts to that story no longer is like 100% accurate. It makes you wonder, really what is going on out there? What's the Earth shape bases? What's the atmosphere? What's going on with the dome or the ionosphere? Because it's just interesting to see things like starting to play out that we've never known before. And maybe it's just because we have cell phones and we didn't used to have cell phones and news could travel on the internet. But I don't remember ever hearing about that stuff growing up where you could see the Northern Lights that aren't in the north. It's called the Northern Lights.
Yeah,
We
for a reason. Yeah. Well, I'll share with you guys real quick. This is my thoughts, and this has been my thoughts for a really long time. Is that I think it's the light from the throne room of God. Personally,
Mm,
I think that when the Father says that in I think it's in Isaiah or somewhere it talks about in the earth is the footstool
hmm
for the Father. I believe that what is that Polaris? Is that the most north star?
yeah.
Is that correct?
Or the one that points north or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's Polaris. It's like where technically the North Pole should be. I personally think it's the glory of God's throne that we're getting glimpses of, and I think as we get closer to those times, the times that we think that we're in right now,
hmm
I believe the Father is revealing His glory more and more. That's just my personal opinion on it. I think that they can say it's space dust, they can say it's the angle of the Earth to the sun, they can say it's whatever they want to, but I think that when you see especially the green coloring of that I think that that's the color that's emanating from the Father's throne. So that's
I
my
I would
personal
have to
take.
agree. It's when it comes to the green stuff, but the the stuff that we've been seeing here in Georgia, I don't know about that stuff. Like I kind of wonder if it has something to do with some government stuff, but you know.
Yeah,
Well, I
could
just thought
be.
it was like 1,000 light brights is what I thought. So
All right, so I got some pictures to share with you. Let me see if I can expand this a little bit. So this is not going to be as good a quality because this is a copy of a copy expanded and super, whatever.
Just a dude playing a dude, pretending to
Just,
be another dude.
it's something like that.
if you know that reference, shame on you.
All right,
Failing all of us.
so if you could actually see what this looks like on camera, you would be like, "Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous." But
It looks like the
this,
background behind our pictures.
let me pull this up. Let's see. Boom, boom, boom. All right, here we go. Let me make it full screen. Yeah, that does not do it justice. This copy of a copy of a copy, but check out all the stars and whatever. And this is in a very high light pollution area, and it's still picking up all these stars and then all this purple and pinks and oranges and all that stuff. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then this one, this was in my front yard.
I thought that was a bruise on my back when I got hit.
Can y'all see that?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I can see it. Yeah.
So that's as good as I got from my cell phone there. But anyway, so it was really cool. And we were supposedly getting some of that in the last week or so, but I didn't see anything like that. I saw the moon being some really weird colors, but
I don't know if we got it as far as South Carolina. I know some people were saying that it wouldn't reach like where me and Jonathan particularly are in South Carolina. I don't. They were saying they didn't know if it would actually travel that far this time. So I don't know if we were actually able to see that even if we were outside for it. I don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, they said it had to been like 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, and
Yeah.
yours truly had to go to work. So
yeah.
going to bed.
Oh
But
man.
but yeah, so I mean, with that, the way that it expanded, I mean, it made like a giant donut circle, over like the northern part of the world. Obviously it's not a southern hemisphere thing, so over like the northern hemisphere. But the other thing that was shocking to me recently, talking about the circle, was the Ring of Fire. So with
Mm.
all the geostorms, with all the, let's just say, man's interference with some things going on, and with all like the different just world events, it's things are piling up one after another. Well, there's a map that I saw recently, and it was showing all of the earthquakes and all of the volcanoes that are actually like going off all at once. And we forget that, if we don't see the smoke coming out like in Iceland or in Italy or wherever, we see these cool volcanoes, we're like, oh, that's a volcano. We forget about all the ones under the water. So yeah, Kyle just put up this map here. This was, a couple months ago, but these are all the earthquakes that have happened that are over 4.0, and that's surrounding the entire Ring of Fire. So if you can kind of figure out where that's at,
Hey,
that's
hold on, Jonathan. Hold on one second, brother.
yeah.
Is that right there in the middle? Is that Johnny Cash in there? I fell into a burning ring of fire.
He's right in the middle.
I think I see it right there.
That's funny.
But yeah, so when you start to see stuff like that, it's a little bit concerning. There's some dark red with 7, 6. These are major earthquakes that we don't really talk about, but these are all of our fault lines. These are all the continents, or not all the continent, all the ones that are surrounding the Pacific Ocean are all involved. I mean, this is essentially the world.
Yeah.
It's we either like, oh, okay, it's just for the Pacific, but that's
Mhm.
North America, South America, Australia, Europe, and Asia. Literally
Kyle, can you
everywhere.
dial in on that one a little bit more? That last
That
one?
one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get a little zoom on.
Little zoom action.
Zoom.
There we go.
But yeah, and of course you see, right off there of the west coast of America, that's where, some of these predictions and projections are talking about the San Andreas fault line. You've seen the movie with The Rock and all that,
Oh,
where,
yeah.
the fun and the boats and all the buildings flying all over the place. But they're not just coming out with those movies because a ha funny never going to happen. They're like, hey, we actually know some stuff, and these are real potential events.
Mm.
And I know me and Joe were talking earlier about Yosemite, and that's another
Yep.
indicate, that's the earth, the ground version. That's the indicator of kind of what's going on. But what were you saying about that, Joe?
About the what?
The Yosemite and all that, and Old Faithful and all that stuff.
Oh, faithful. Yeah. Well, first of all, if that lets loose, that's going to be bad. That's
Yeah.
just and that's something they've been talking about for a really long time.
Going to
And
be
so
bad.
it's gonna be really bad. Just put that down and then write it down, put it on the calendar. It's gonna be really that way when it happens, you can look back and go, Joe said it was gonna be really bad, and it was.
Hmm.
No, I'd have to look it up. I was actually getting ready to look it up to see what that would be compared to as far as an atomic explosion. But that would be very bad. It would set off a chain of events in the United States that would let's put it this way. If we got earthquakes happening on West Coast, East Coast, in the middle of the United States, plus um, Yellowstone going off, that's just gonna be that's bad. I
Well,
mean,
I
that's
I do have a little input on that.
go ahead.
So you were curious, how that would be compared to like a nuke, right?
Right,
Well, my understanding is that, and by the way, it's not just if it erupts; it's if it erupts with the potential that they believe it has,
right,
right?
Right. Yeah.
If it erupts to that point, so they said yes. Obviously, if it goes with its full effect that they think it has, yes, it's going to cause massive damage to a very large area. But what's going to be even worse than that is the amount of ash and stuff that's thrown up into the sky,
right.
Yep.
and how it's going to get into the
Jet stream.
jet stream and spread or whatever. the claim is that it's going to create kind of a nuclear winter for decades.
Nice.
And I'm not really sure how that works, but it's kind of a like darkening out the sky kind of thing, and how that would just stay up there. I don't know why it wouldn't fall. I don't know, because it is going to fall down eventually. But yeah, I guess maybe the jet stream just kind of keeps it up there or something. I don't know. I think that's what they're predicting.
Yeah, well, it's Mount. I was alive and a young boy when Mount St. Helens she popped her top, and it was pretty good explosion. I mean, it was on point, man. It wiped out vegetation, trees, and we didn't really get the winter. Now they did say that when Mount St. Helens went off, that for a while there, the temperature dropped. If I remember correctly, it dropped like 10 degrees immediately. The whole area that all that ash covered, like it immediately, like the temperatures were dropping but it didn't last for 10 years, of course, or we probably wouldn't be here talking right now.
All right.
But so that's some of that stuff. I wonder if that's just them hyping it up like, oh, for the next decade, we'll be blanking. I'm like, there's no scientific proof there that we're going to be in a nuclear winter for 10 years. But
Well, proof is going to be after the fact, but I think what they're getting at is
It's too late then.
yeah, yeah. I think that there's evidence that is possible.
there's a
That is
probability of it. Yeah.
plausible, So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Well, just think about the chain reactions to that. That's vegetation starts to die. Vegetation dies, animals start dying. Animals start dying. Our
water's
food
poisoned.
sources, water's poison. Our food sources start getting very limited. So that's why they call it the circle of life, because when you start taking parts of that circle of life out, it's going to start affecting everything downstream from it. So
Yep.
Yeah, you got the circle of life and the ring of fire.
yeah, Johnny Cash or Disney playing your theme song. So yeah.
Tell them that God's gonna cut you down.
Oh
Oh man,
man.
yeah, it could get bad for sure. I mean, imagine what people would resort to for food.
Yeah, well,
That's kind
cannibalism
of biblical.
is on the table. That's one thing that, all the many years of us looking at prepping, and you realize they said it could be within a matter of less than a week that people will turn to cannibalism if they're, from hunger.
You know
That's
what?
less than a week.
Yeah, yeah. All right, think about this for a second. We've got the biblical. Um, the sun will be darkened, and the
Mhm.
moon will be turned to blood. Well, the sun and the moon produce two different kinds of light, right? The moon produces a cold light, where the sun is a hot light. That's measurable. We can prove that. That's a factual thing. It's the moonlight is not a reflection from the sun. That's a absolute fact. We can show that. Well, if that's the case, then the sun would be greatly darkened if there was this ash in the sky, right? For however long. Maybe the different color temperature of light coming from the moon would change the color of the moon to look a different way, potentially. And then you have all the other stuff in the Bible about people doing bad things to one another and
Well,
hiding in the
the
rocks.
water will be wormwood.
Water, yeah. I
No.
mean,
Well, think about this, depending on how the chain of events goes off, it talks about a third of the earth will be scorched as well.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, that's something that's very plausible with something like that, because like you said, that ring of fire is hitting all the continents pretty much. It's like it's hitting the majority of the world, the known world.
Everybody will be
And who
affected.
knows? We're just talking about the United States. We're not even talking about everybody else and what that would set off, what reaction that would set off for them.
You know what? Let's pull that back up, dude. Check this out. So think about this. If all of this was to kind of get set off, right? And you'd have like ash in the sky for X amount of years, da 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 da. The amount of land mass that would be affected on each continent I think we could very easily say that would take care of a third right there. I think that's very plausible.
Boom.
I don't know, man. Look, hey, when God does His things, when He does what He does, when He places judgment, biblically speaking, He pretty much always uses things that are natural to us, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think it's very possible.
Well,
Plausible.
according to that map, it looks like our friends in Australia might be the place to go, mate.
What are you talking about? 2/3 of that place is surrounded.
Yeah, but off the coast, though, it's not actually touching it.
Well, the northern coast of it's pretty close.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's not touching, but
Joe's getting them on a technicality.
Yeah.
Well, technically,
technically, we could all move to Siberia because they seem to be pretty out of the way of everything.
Well,
but
let's go back and relook at that map. That's the flat mercurial style map where it's all the continents are all the wrong size and shape. It's all flat. So I mean, if you were to put that on a globe or another style of map, it wouldn't look like that anyway. But because according to this map, there's no such thing as Antarctica. So
Right.
Yeah. Well, technically, too. I mean, if you look, technically, it's not touching any of these land masses. If you look at the dotted line, because the dotted line is where everything's pretty much at. Like where the stars are, I think is. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but these little red spots right here, I think those are like underwater volcanoes and stuff.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
No, those are either mountains or current volcanoes that they know about.
Right.
Like that one.
These are all underwater.
Mount St. Helens and stuff. The one up in America. The one in the middle.
Well, all right. There is a couple of ones on land here.
And the rest of those are like islands, so they're technically land, but some of them are just giant volcano islands.
Yeah, poor Japan's gonna get it.
Japan.
Yeah.
On top of everything, right? There's currently one, or recently, a whole volcano on the actual land that we can see.
Whole one?
Yeah, a whole volcano, not a half one. This isn't those little small thing in the corner. It's not an anthill, But this is all the way down at the bottom of Italy. It's in the island Sicily. It's called Mount Etna. And what was crazy was, there was pictures of people and videos of them like going there it's a common tourist location. So they're just out there, looking at the mountain, taking videos. All of a sudden, boom, ash and vibration everywhere. These people are like holding their camera, like facing the volcano actively going off while running full speed the other direction, because who's expecting that to happen just out the clear blue sky? So it makes you wonder, like, this could happen at any time for any reason, almost anywhere on Earth, because the whole Earth is a bunch of fault lines and tectonic plates and, lava geysers. There's stuff like this just everywhere. And so Kyle's got a picture up right now, and that's, it mid explosion. And, obviously you can't be around there. You can't breathe that air. It's super toxic to you. And that's after all the Ring of Fire stuff. This is not in the Ring of Fire. This is in the middle of the middle, and stuff's still going on. So this is definitely some interesting things to look at.
Do you think all these, like all the volcanoes of the world, are all connected regardless? Is that
sure at some point,
you guys, like, yeah.
Well, so real quick, Kyle's got the picture pulled up. So this one right here kind of made me laugh a little bit, because this is an act, supposedly, right? The title is Mount Etna from Space. The problem is, this video looks like something I could take, by flying a kite, really high. This is I mean, you can almost see houses and stuff. This is clearly not 100,000 miles above wherever. This is an airplane, right? I think I've been higher than this in a regular airplane.
Right.
But regardless of if it's from space or not, we got questionable facts in that arena anyway. But it's interesting to see from above. They didn't see a lot of the pictures. You don't see lava. Well, this one, there's lava. This was a legit full-on volcano. And it just it's sobering a little bit of like, these are people that live. That's a whole city right there to the right. And there's people that live there. And where's the volcano going? Where's that lava gonna go to?
You know what? That's a good point. Let me point this out. Look at the just for scale purposes, look at the length of this lava flow and how wide and how long it is, and then compare that to this city down here, right?
Town.
Like that's a huge building. Like that's an entire marina right here.
I think it might be a little bitty boat over there.
Right. So that's probably a very large boat right there.
Yeah.
But I mean, like there's lots and lots of houses and businesses right here. And just compare that to this right here. Like that is a lot. It don't look like much until you compare it to what's over here. Like that's a crazy amount of lava.
Well, the good thing about that picture, at least it looks like no one lives like any of those major towns lived in that close a proximity to it. You
Well,
know,
you can
for
see
that lava starts flowing down. I mean, I understand it's, you know, they
Stuff
can
rolls
get,
downhill.
yeah, oh, absolutely. But at least it's got some room to start cooling down a little bit before it looks like to anybody or any of the bigger parts of the town.
Hey, what is this right here? Like, is this hang on, let me scroll in a little bit further. Is this right here? Is this chunks of stuff flying in the air right here? Is that what that is?
I think it's just stuff that hit the ground. But
Yeah.
that whole area, if you can see, it's already all scorched and the land's all crazy looking because that's previous eruptions, which is why, as Joe said, no one's living there because it's already scorched earth.
Wow.
Now, is there, go into that picture real quick, Kyle.
Oh, my bad.
Right there, like go straight down from where the lava is. Now go to the right a little bit. Are those houses?
No, those
I
are
don't.
clouds.
No,
Oh, you
right there.
talking about the
Not
white
those,
spots,
not
or you talking
those,
about
but
in the
look to
green
the right
section?
of it. Is that little houses
Oh,
right there?
it might be, yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Where?
And
Right there. Blow the
Right
picture up a little
here?
bit more if you can. Yeah, right there. That looks like could be structures.
well, Joe, we're looking from space, so you know
I
what I
know.
mean.
Yeah.
The final
All
frontier.
right, I'm at 400% right now. Let's see.
Okay.
400.
It
I mean, it
still
kind of
looks
looks
like
like the same coloration as the other structures.
Yeah, it could be.
maybe.
Yeah.
We'll put
Maybe
a
it's time to
maybe
find a
stamp on
different
that one.
location.
Right.
Could be time to move. You know what? I don't know who thought it was a good idea to. You know what? Hey, there's a volcano right here. Let's build our houses at the base of this.
Isn't it
What could
pretty?
possibly go wrong?
Well, Kyle, I mean, think about it. This is Mount Fuji, Mount Kilimanjaro, Pompeii, Mount Vesuvius, right? You know, everybody. The Joe brought up earlier, Mount St. Helens. We just love building right next to the dumb stuff. We're like, oh, New Orleans, all the way underwater. Need a levee just to maybe hold it off. Let's build inside the bowl that's already under the water that will fill up if there's ever any water. We just do dumb stuff because we want to, or you know, we think we can conquer nature. We can, you know, we don't have to follow the rules of nature. You're like, but if it rains, you do.
Right.
Yeah.
If the volcano goes off, you'll learn quick.
Right. Oh, speaking of rock, hey Joe, pull this up for me right here. I saw this, and I want to play a video for y'all. And after the video, I want to share something with you that I think is really cool. Like this is what I got in my mind. Okay.
That's dangerous.
So, actually, let me go ahead and preface it like this. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go a little sideways for a minute, but trust me, it ties all together. Okay, in the
You know what, Kyle? That's what they told everybody who built their homes around the volcano. Trust me, I promise
it'll all come together.
It'll be
Yes,
fine.
it'll all come together, solidified as
deal.
one big rock later on.
Trying to think about it.
It makes sense if you don't think about it.
Yeah. Orange is the new black.
That's fantastic. Okay, so again, it's going to get sideways for a second, but hear me out. So the temple, or excuse me, the tabernacle. All right. We have a biblical description of what materials were used and all that kind of stuff, right? And in our Masoretic text, it'll use things like beaver's skin or porpoise, skin and things like that. And I just don't think the Father would have used unclean animals, right? And so in my research and my digging, I've found that to be inaccurate and that it was actually some other animal that was used in place of that. And I'm not going to get into all that, but we can go into that another time. Anyway, so the fact of the matter is that it was clean animals that was used. Well, one thing that has always bothered me is there's a claim that for the blue that is used in the priestly garments, that the claim is that it's a very specific type of snail shell and all that stuff that is used. Well, the shell itself, I don't think is unclean. But if it has an animal in it that is an unclean animal and you have to kill it and remove it to get said shell, you have priests or at least Levites that are harvesting this stuff and dealing with unclean things, right? And I've just never been okay with the idea that I've never been okay with the idea that anything unclean was used to build the tabernacle or any of the priestly garments or any of that stuff. So with that said, one of the stones that is used in the priestly breastplate is very likely to be a stone called lapis lazuli. Now, with that said, check this out. Let me add this to the stage and y'all just listen.
The villagers are crushing lapis lazuli, bright and blue. Each piece is hammered down into smaller chunks. Once sifted, the lapis reveals its true color, blue with a hint of white. Next, a chunk of melted beeswax is heated, and the lapis powder is added in. Mixed thoroughly until it forms a shimmering, dark blue concentrate. Once cooled, the mixture is rolled into small, dark blue balls, each one packed with concentrated pigment. They are then boiled down and left to settle for several days, allowing impurities to naturally rise to the top. Once dried in the sun, the powder is tested for the correct shade. Ground fine, it's ready to be used in paints or cloth dye. Take a look at this. The villagers are crushing
Okay, my thought is we know they had access to lapis lazuli, assuming that that is the stone that is used, right? I believe this is where they're getting the blue from.
That makes a lot of sense.
How cool is that, man?
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's none
That's
of our
very cool.
beeswax, but I think that that was the coolest part to me. I was like, oh, they, the stuff that they have available to them, like me, Jonathan, in today's world with all this technology and stuff, would never figure this out. I would not go, hey, let's go get some rocks and crush them and bake them and add beeswax. Where do you even get that from? How do you even make that? No idea. And they're just like, oh, we did this perfectly, and we crushed it down and made pigment, and it was just awesome. And we're so advanced and so far ahead of these guys way back there living in the desert, just simple-minded, regular people who can't do anything but eat food and take a bath once a week. And we couldn't do that if we tried. So that's amazing. That was a really cool video.
Yeah,
Right?
I'd be cool with it if it was just methylene blue. You know what I'm saying? But
Drip, 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 drip.
Oh,
that's about the color of methylene blue as well. So, but I think that's awesome, Kyle. I think that is definitely something that's natural, comes from the earth. Would agree that I would be on board with that 100%. Versus, and again, the whole snail thing. Let's be honest. How many snails would you have to crush? You know what I'm saying, for textile dyeing?
right.
You literally would probably wipe out the entire existence of whatever that port. That's probably why the snail. I'm sure there's other group of people who use that snail for coloring, and it's probably why they thought it went extinct. And then I think they just found, possibly, I think within the last few years, I think I've heard that they found this snail that they believe was used. But this makes way more sense right here. That like I said, I can get behind that 100%.
Yeah, and it's something that they
It's a real
can.
pretty blue too. I like that color.
Oh yeah, it
Oh
was
yeah.
beautiful.
And it's something they can pack. It's something that they could carry. It's something they could use like has longevity to it. How long is a snail gonna even survive and be good for? And then, like can you crush that down in the same way that you can crush down a rock? It's made out of different materials. It just seems like there's less logistics to, once you've got this bag of pigment, that's it. You just need a little bit for whatever your application. Let's go and get 9,000 snails and do this whatever. Like it's always seemed a little far-fetched. It's not in the Bible. Let's start off there.
Right.
There's no example of anybody ever doing anything like that. There's no example of anything like that ever being used. So any bit of all of it is assumption, but it's not an assumption that people used colors and pigments and stuff like that forever. That's not an assumption. We know that to be true.
Right.
We don't know of anybody doing the snail process in the middle of the desert after leaving Egypt.
And if you look at that process that's used, I mean, and I'm just backing up what you said about the logistically speaking, like there's multiple stages in that process. Instead of having to carry around a bunch of rocks, right?
Mhm.
Like breaking that down into a powder or even the little ball sections that they had or whatever, like there's multiple stages in between there where all they got to do is either grind it or add a little water or whatever, right? Like, so that's something that can be done down the road. So I don't know.
Yeah, and here's the thing with that too, is that if anybody's ever dyed anything, you don't need you don't need a lot. Like, that's a very concentrated color. You don't
Right.
need like, a half a bag to dye some garments. All you need is probably a tablespoon,
A pinch.
and you're in business. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, talking about the methylene blue, when I look at the methylene blue that I take, that's some very heavy concentrated blue that you put it and as soon as you put it in the water, guess what? Just a few little drops is turning that water completely blue.
Yeah.
And so can you imagine the concentration of this being in a powder? You don't need a lot. It would last you a long time. So it's not like you're going to have to be busting rocks 24/7 to get dyed. Once you get a certain amount of it, you're probably good for a while.
Yeah. I mean, maximum, how much would they need for everything that they did? Can you imagine if they just had 100 pounds of that stuff, how long that would last?
A
Forever.
really long time.
Exactly.
Trying to give it away eventually. Anybody want some of this?
Yeah.
Anybody want to color this
got
eat
that-
seats? I mean, I got it
Got
right
that
here.
blue dust, bro. You need some.
Oh boy.
Lord have
Oh my
mercy.
goodness.
Yeah.
Okay,
Please forgive me.
yeah, it's too late. No. But yeah, no, talking about the blue and all these like colors and stuff, because like Kyle was bringing up, the priests, they had all these stones, they're red and green and blue and all kind of cool looking stones, which I would love to see the original version of that. I know we keep seeing like reenactments of it, but on the other side of it, tell me why. I see this picture the other day, and you guys, we all grew up and we either know of, have seen, or have loved said show called Sesame Street, right? That's a family classic. That's the most conservative. Just love your kids, teach them some values, give them the letter A, the number 2, and the count. Right? There's some good stuff, sorta. So
Well, don't forget about Oscar the Grouch, though, which is
right.
my second theory of where the green light comes from. Is from his garbage can he lives in, but I digress.
It's all the
The Aurora
pollution.
Borealis is coming
Yeah.
from Oscar. Nice.
But yeah,
Good
so
stuff.
I'm kind of holding Sesame Street to some kind of high standard. That's public broadcasting. What could go wrong? Well, like a lot of things that have gone woke recently, Sesame Street has gone that direction in a strong way. So I'm just kind of flipping through Facebook, and there's a picture of like all these little like they're not Muppets. What are they called? Like the puppets, all their little arms grabbing each other and holding each other. And I was like, oh, cute. Wait a second. We're in the month of June. Are they really going that direction with this? So so Kyle just pulled it up. So these are the characters that we grew up around. We know, we understand. We bought our kids the Tickle Me Elmo, and we watched all this stuff, right? The creators decided to take these normal, take care of your kids and watch in Saturday morning, Sunday morning, just shows you could just let them watch and walk out of the room because it's safe.
Right.
Well, they've now gone this direction with their content, and they're now like in the full acceptance and pushing that agenda. And for whatever it's worth, that's not the place for it, right? If people have their opinions and thoughts, as adults, you do what you got to do wherever you go to do that stuff. But in the public eye, in the public square, and you got the kids involved, that was a huge turnoff for me. Yeah, that's another one. This is great. A whole parade with a big bird.
Oh my goodness, dude. look at this one. So not only does it have the,
Oh yeah.
but by the way, the rainbow flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Notice it doesn't have all the colors.
Yeah, it only has 6.
Uh-huh.
And guess what 6 is in the Bible? The number of man.
Man. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So man doing man things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if this isn't gross enough, the idea that they're trying to shape the minds of children into this direction, I want you to pay attention to something. Not only do we have this flag represented here, look at this one.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know what that is?
That's the everybody flag.
The everybody flag.
Yeah, any and everything you can think wrong is in that flag.
Isn't that the one for P3DO files?
Mm.
At least part of those are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Part
It's
of
the
that flag is.
everything. It's you just fill in the blank of whatever you think is good. That's not
How evil can you be, man?
right for kids.
Oh, is it how about this person back here? Maybe they're wearing a costume, or maybe I don't know. But the little horns back there.
Oh yeah,
Anyway.
I love it.
Yay, that's fun.
Yeah, so that's Sesame Street.
Yep.
Hide your kids.
And that's not the first show. Unfortunately, it's come out in these Jurassic Park or Jurassic World kids cartoons. It's even like go back to what Arthur, some old stuff that's not even current.
I'll be honest with you, Arthur hurt a little bit, man.
Yeah, I was like Arthur.
My kids growing up, we watched Arthur together, and it was like all of a sudden, I'm like, and I literally remember the episode where I was sitting there looking like going, "Wait a minute, hold on, something ain't right."
Yeah. So yeah, tons of the cartoons, and I mean that's the unfortunate stuff. You know, like the adult content. You're an adult, you can make a decision on your own, but you're a kid. You're just getting it in your head for what reason? You know, you're not even thinking on those lines. You're trying to get goldfish and have a lollipop. You know, it's not even on your mind yet, and they're just like, here, take it, force it on you. And then another one. So all the fun June month stuff is they had this. The new administration's trying to clean some stuff up, trying to make us a ready to go fighting force for world conflicts and all this kind of stuff, and get rid of some of the silliness that's causing issues or money or whatever. So there was a boat, and this is what blows my mind. This is military, right? Where is your military boats, not just like a random boat for random people, a ship. And so they have this boat, and they name it after some guy, and I think his name started with milk, had milk in it. Yeah, Harvey Milk, which is already hilarious. I didn't even know that could be a name, but they named it. This is a guy who's a part of gay rights and known to be as Kyle used the word earlier,
P3DO file.
He had an issue with AIDS and the people that he was interested in, and they named a whole ship after him because of all the DEI agenda and stuff, and trying to appease different groups and crowds. Well, Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense, came in and said, yeah, no, we're not doing that. That's absolutely crazy. So he's actually had to come out, which I didn't even know we would do something like this, to have to go back and fix, like name the boat after like, a bomb or an arrow or some Medal of Honor winner or something, like why some guy who's part of a weird agenda that, was special to him. So yeah, he just went in and said, you know what, we're done with that. We're going to rename it and call it something normal, because what are we doing? And this is on the world stage. This is military stuff. You know what I mean? Like why?
Right.
Like, have you ever even heard of anything like that?
I mean, what are most of our stuff's named after like ex-presidents,
right? Or generals or somebody like people important to.
Yeah, cool stuff, big important stuff. Well, you know what else they were
Harvey
renaming?
Milk.
Some of the military bases. Do you remember that when they were changing the names of like Fort Bragg and Fort, these different military bases all over the U.S. They were, these are related to, the South back whenever there was the war, and they were related to this, they were related to that. So like, we got to change the name so we can not have any more issues. And people complaining about, well, this guy was a part of the South when they were fighting, so we just need to delete every single thing possible. So Trump and the administration, they've gone back and renamed some of those bases and said, nah, we're just gonna, it's been this base for 50 years, it's going back to be that. We're not playing games anymore.
Yeah. that agenda of tearing down statues and which I'm not a fan of statues anyway. I could, but that agenda of tearing down statues and changing names of things and all of that stuff, it seems like it's supposedly in the category of doing something for the greater good of everyone, so that everyone is okay with it. But the behind the scenes agenda to all that stuff is not just turning stuff into everything woke, but it's also it's eliminating our history right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know about the history, you're bound to repeat it, one. And two, you can't call people out on their on their lies.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the history, you can't teach it. If you can't teach it, it's lost.
Yeah. Well, it's revisionist history at its best.
Yeah.
You're just getting rid of stuff altogether. And it's like at first everybody was kind of like, okay, let's make sure we're not hating on any groups, like with the football team that's in Washington D.C., right? So some people get all offended, so then they named them the football team, which was just the worst thing in the history of ever.
Wait, DC or state?
Washington D.C.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
I didn't know.
So yeah, they've renamed the team now 2 or 3 times. They're trying to find something cool to stick, and it's not because it's stupid. But
So are they planning on changing it again from the Commanders?
They've talked about it. They're already because they're people are making fun of it. They're calling them the commies as their nickname, and they're like, it's not. Yeah, it's not. It's not going over well.
I'm not going back to the original name and just like tell everybody like get a life.
Exactly, but they've done it in baseball with the Guardians. They've done it in different leagues. They're trying to get rid of all the Native American references, which they'll keep the Chiefs. They'll keep the these different teams, but then some of them they're like, oh, this one absolutely not. Now I get it, right? If somebody's super duper offended and like it's a big deal, talk about it, vote on it. Don't people need to have a voice, but you're changing the football teams. You're changing bases. You're changing the food. Aunt Jemima. Uncle Ben's. It's just called Ben's Rice. What happened? He's not an uncle no more.
Here's the deal. Did they go back and ask any of these people if they were offended by this?
Yeah.
Nope.
A lot of this is assumptions.
No, actually, Joe, to that point, they did go ask the people, and they said they weren't offended. They actually were
Exactly
upset
right.
that they lost their representation. They were like, "This is all we had. This is the only reason why people knew who we were."
Yeah, after the fact. Nobody asked ahead of time.
So when they took Aunt Jemima and removed her name, right? Then what happened? They removed her name.
Yeah,
they removed everything that this woman stood for and all of her achievements and everything that made her what this company is. It's like so. So she named it. If I'm not mistaken,
it's
it wasn't
my
like
syrup.
that's what I understand. She's the one that named it. It's her company.
Dude. We get rid of the Land O'Lakes Indian. We get rid of all the Indian stuff. We get rid of all the Black or African American. We get rid of all of that stuff, right? I'm sure they probably did something with some of the Latinos to get rid of their stuff too. I don't know. But get rid of all of that. Yet it's perfectly fine for KFC to have a plantation owner looking like peddling chicken to everybody.
Didn't they do that with the banana too? The Chiquita, the woman that was on there.
Yep, got rid of her. Yep, got rid. I knew.
So what you're really saying they're doing is they're just erasing people from our history is what they're doing.
Yeah, in the name of being, good for culture, they're eliminating the culture.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and they've been doing this like, they call it like modern. And so this is what's kind of throwing me for a loop. So I don't know if you guys remember going back in the day, not too far, maybe 10, 15 years. You used to go to like McDonald's. They'd have a play place and the little outdoor thing, the indoor thing, the slide, all this fun stuff. You go to Taco Bell, it was shaped like the Alamo. It was all, it was all cool and stucco. They had like the cool shapes and the chairs, everything was like fun and like individual and like looked like, oh, this is a business. The Pizza Hut had the special roof that everybody knows that roof.
Yep.
Now what is everything shaped like? A box. What are all the colors? Brown, white, black. And like, you go to Taco Bell today, it's a box. McDonald's box, brown, white, black, and a little bit of metal if you want to, And so
everything looks the same.
Yeah, they're getting rid of culture. They're getting rid of art. Like, like we used to, when you go back and look at the old Capitol buildings, they're domes with all these pillars. Not that I think that's good to do, but it at least had artistic value. You go to look
Right.
at go to any modern city now. What's the shape of everything? Square,
Square to
rectangle.
rectangle. Yep.
Yeah, we call ourselves the best, the most artistic, the most advanced. And like everything we build is like boring, basic, no colors, no features. And
Yep.
so yeah, you get rid of all the representation. You get rid of all the cool people of history that have made cool stuff. Like, hey, you made pancake syrup. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. If I invent something, put my face all over it. I want to be smiling and everything. They're
Yeah.
like,
And if,
no,
you
get rid of
know,
him, and then now your family loses that. Everything that ever was like attached to that's gone. Like, when you go to these new modern restaurants, you lose that nostalgia value. Pizza. You used to look at Pizza Hut, and they had a little buffet, and kale used to be the thing that you put food on, not the food that you eat. You know what I mean? Like, just sometimes it makes you wonder, like, when did they
well,
trick us to give us the garnish as the main meal?
yeah, the one word that comes to my mind with all this is sterilization
Ooh.
of
Mm.
society. It's what
Mm.
they're doing is just sterilizing all of society. Everything will look the same, basically, be shaped the same. We'll remove the names, we'll remove everything that made them what they are and just make everything so it's all neutral and no one's offended and it's all sterile.
You know, people people don't like or people hate what they don't understand.
Mm.
Or people fight against what they don't understand. I wonder if they are just kind of vanillaizing everything, if you will. I don't know
Vanilla
how
icing?
yeah, for sure. That's actual words. I don't know what I said, but um, everything's taupe. You know what I mean? Like everything's just across the board the same. Everything. So when we see something, at some point, our society is going to get to a point where when they see something, there's going to be a trigger that either automatically makes them not want it at all
Mhm.
or anything to do with it, or it's going to make them completely fall in love with it
Mm.
because of it being different than everything else. That's the only two responses that are going to happen is everybody's going to flock to it or everybody's going to go away from it.
Mhm.
I
Well, I
see
got one.
some biblical conditioning going
Yeah,
on.
I got one for you. This one I just thought of the other day. So uh, none of us were alive, but we've seen these cars, the old Cadillacs, with the big flares and the wings and like,
Mhm.
all these like, the seats that would turn and like the benches and just cars used to have all this amazing style, uniqueness. Like you could tell, oh, that's a Cadillac for sure. Oh no, that's a Dodge. No, no, no. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
Chevy. And they, everybody had their unique style. They had all these extra shapes and extra lights and just everything was all like meant to be pleasing to the eye that made you want to buy it. Go
Mm-hmm.
look today just at the average car. They all are a crossover style SUV. They're
Cookie
all about the
cutter.
same shape and size. And
Mhm.
we've even gotten rid of a lot of the colors. Now you go look and just start paying attention. You used to have those, the old ugly colors we don't like no more, but like the bronze, the greens, the yellow, all those colors are just gone. You get black, white, silver, and maybe a couple colors sprinkled in there, but you've gotten rid of so much. Like
Mhm.
like Ford, they just like, we don't sell cars anymore. We got the Mustang, that's it. Everything else is either a truck or an SUV. We're going to tell you this is what you want. This is all you're
Mhm.
going to want, and we won't give you other options. And then guess what? They all look the same. When you go and look through like 10 different car brands, you look at all the crossover SUVs, they all are like 10% different. They
Yeah.
all got the same features. They got the 8-inch screen in the front. They all got the same everything. And you're just
Yep.
like, what happened to whenever it was like fun and cool and unique? And so, somebody said sterilization and vanillaizing. It feels like that's what's happening. It's like you
Yeah.
literally have like your options have been taken away and said, now you're going to like this though. And you're
Mm-hmm.
all going to be happy that it's the same because now you all fit in. We're all equal. Oh man, where does that play a factor? It sounds kind of like the beginnings of communism, beginnings of you're going to own nothing and love it. Maybe take the mark of the beast so we can all be the
Well,
same. We can all
well,
buy and sell and trade.
think
Yeah.
about this. So if I get this world at some point, all the cars will be driving, all the vehicles, I won't say cars, all the vehicles will be driving themselves.
Mhm.
Supposedly in the next 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Right. So psychologically, if I make the automobiles less appealing to you, because if the car's driving me, I'll be honest with you, I can care less what it looks like. If I'm in a vehicle that's driving me where if I get in and it says and I put in or I verbally say, "Hey, take me to wherever," at that point, I feel like I'm disconnected from that vehicle, and so I can care less what it really looks like as long as it gets me from A to B, because that's now all it's now become.
It's
You know,
removing
back in
part
the
of your
day,
personality.
because I am old enough to remember muscle cars and, you know, in the 80s and stuff, and it's still muscle cars are still popular, but I remember the Novas and the Camaros and the Mustangs and the fastback Mustangs. Is that what it's called, a fastback?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
I
so
remember it. What's it called again?
yeah. No, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss, because Kyle, I'm not a Ford guy, but Kyle is. I didn't want to be like, "That's not called that." But
It's his loss.
these cars have, like you said, Jonathan, they have character.
Yeah.
You know, my grandmother drove Ford LTDs, and she wasn't
Wow.
even 5 foot tall. So literally, when I tell you she drove through the steering wheel, but she drove this 20-foot car everywhere. But I would recognize that car from, 3 blocks away. That's grandmama coming,
Hmm.
because of the way the car looked. There was a difference between the Ford LTDs and the Cadillacs and all these really big cars. They all had a distinct look to them. And a lot of them was, hey, this is my personal taste. I really like this. I'm a GMC guy. I know Kyle's a Ford man. Jonathan's a Chevy guy. And so I like the way my GMC looks out of all the trucks. That's my preference. But if we go down the road next 10 years and I really don't have any ties to my vehicle like that, where it's just, hey, it literally is, you get in and it takes you wherever you got to go. And I'm no longer, let's put it this way, they will probably make it to where at some point you will not be able to drive the vehicle.
Right.
So
Yeah.
now I've lost interest in, I'll be kind of honest with you, I could care less what it looks like to a certain degree. As
Well,
long as it's big enough to fit my big body in, I don't care. So you look at that trend of getting you to, it's that part in your brain where it's like, oh, I ain't gonna lie to you. The first thing that came to mind, Jonathan, was all of the crossover SUVs out there. They're all about the same look. And now even driving on the road, I have to look for the tag on the vehicle to see exactly sometimes what it is. Oh, that's a Honda. Oh, that's a Nissan. That's a
Hmm.
Toyota. And there's a lot of silver cars out there now. There's a
yeah.
lot of, a
I'm
lot of
telling
just
you.
nothing that's really flashy anymore or really stands out. But that could be a mental conditioning going, hey, by the way, in the next 10 years, you're not going to need a driver's license anymore. We're going to take you where you need to go. We're going to let you know
Yeah.
when you can leave your home and when you can't.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. And by the way, I was on a road trip a couple years back, and I remember like I something caught my eye. Like I noticed that there was like an unusually large amount of white vehicles kind of like going down the interstate in the other direction, all at once. So just from where I started counting, there had already been a few go past me. Just from where I started counting, the next like 19 vehicles were all white. Now, these weren't like company vehicles going in the same place or no, this was like different people, different makes, models, all this other stuff, and they were just all white. And I was like, that's weird. Like,
Yep.
am I in the matrix right now?
I think
Um,
we are, regardless. But
so,
yeah,
so I see a double-edged sword to this. So on one side, you've got um, at least for a lot of guys, man, your car is an expression of you. You know what I mean?
exactly.
If you're a car guy, especially if you're a car guy, right? And so when you take away options, or it kind of messes with you with who you are, and how you express yourself. But um, on one hand we've got the over expression or overdoing, consume, go buy the most brand new 2025 truck that's out there, put a lift kit on it, put some brand new wheels and tires on it, do all the fancy stuff to it,
Spend $140,000.
spend $140,000, right? Exactly. And next year that truck's not cool anymore to anybody but you.
Mm.
That blows my mind. Everything that's on there is old.
Hey, my truck's a 2016. I still get compliments on it. So,
From real car dudes.
right.
Yeah, right.
Or younger people that are oh, it's a 4-wheel drive. That's cool.
And again, I mean, even thinking that, that idea of, it's nice to get compliments on your trucks or on your cars
Mhm.
or whatever, car guys get it. But even that being impressed in us that's consumerism, that's pride, that's all kind of
Mhm.
stuff that, shouldn't be there. But I don't know, man. It blows my mind. So you got this consumerism on one side, and if you go the vanilla route, like what we've been talking about, then you remove expression of personality and all that. So I don't know, man. It's like where's the fine line? You know, I think obviously it should be have the choice and then make the choice to do the right thing. But I don't know. I don't like it. I can tell you what I'm doing.
That's the one.
I have never owned a new vehicle ever in my life. I've never owned a new vehicle, and I will not go buy a brand new vehicle. I will not do that for myself. I bought my wife 2 new vehicles, but I won't ever own one for myself. I'm going to build. I got a 1972 F600 crew cab sitting out in the yard. I'm going to put that body on a modern frame with a nice diesel engine in it, and I'll be able to haul whatever I want to haul. I'll be able to customize it. And here's the thing. I can make it unique to me, right? And that truck is going to be cool forever.
To somebody.
It's a classic, you know?
Yeah.
This is a classic. I can't ever see a point in the future where a 2019 F-250 is ever going to be a collector.
Well, especially if everything pops off the way it could, and what does anything matter anymore?
Yeah, true.
Well,
hey, that's a cool truck. Hey, is that a volcano going off of
it? See if you can get that truck to safety. That's the best thing you got.
Grab a hold of my bumper. I'll take you to safety now. Come on.
Right.